Hello. We are thrilled to have you join us for today's Decoded episode, where Safari Sundays will walk us through their rebrand of Slurpee. In the world of branding, revitalizing a heritage brand can be a delicate dance, requiring a perfect blend of modernization and a nod to its timeless charm. However, when it comes to Slurpee, the iconic frozen delight has captured the hearts of generations with its vibrant colors, flavors, and an unmistakable connection to youth culture. Today, creative director Adam Walko and design director Priscila Grassi of Safari Sundays will take us behind the scenes to decode their entire process. So get ready to dive into the world of Slurpee's bright colors, big flavors, and the youthful spirit that has kept it at heart of the American culture.
Thanks, Chloe. Thanks, Andrew. Hey, Bill. Hi, I'm Adam. I'm the creative director at Safari Sundays.
Hi, I'm Pri. I'm design director here at Safari Sundays.
So yeah, I guess it's not too epic. We're not going to take you through everything, but I have to say we are going to bring you a definitely intentionally lo-fi, hyper-abridged, I think, taste of the back-of-house sausage making here at Safari, and how we went through the phase one of evolving and working on Slurpee in such an amazing way. I think just like to disclaimer that all things inside, obviously, even in the animated GIFs, are things borrowed and stolen for creative purposes only. You'll see some things, and it's all about the love and how we go about phase one of creative. The first thing to really say is that we'll take you through a little bit of an ask versus an insight, a challenge, and then what we call the beef or the brief, hence the sausage, and then behind the curtain of the phase one and our final solve. So getting into it, you know, the ask originally from the team and Seven Branding was that they wanted us to just activate and strategically connect in a more impactful way to Gen Z. And that meant, how can we reinvigorate through activation strategy, but not alienate current loyalists? So it actually had nothing to do at first with rebranding or evolving the graphic design of the elements. But the first thing we really noticed is, wait a minute. An activation, is that really enough? Yes, it could connect socially. And yes, we can do a lot on the ground and creatively, strategically connect to Slurpee. But the problem was what we thought or knew about Slurpee was unclear. And who the loyalists were and what were they loyal to was also a little bit deeply ingrained and anchored in a constant evolution, as you could see those cups. There was an amazing history of Slurpee always changing. So what branding or aesthetics could we even anchor into activate against? It really brought in case in point to an insight phase and what we like to call going on Safari, where we take deeper dives, in this case, into the soul of Slurpee. And you know, the first thing we really discovered was that Slurpee on its own was already an American icon, not in its graphic design, but just the concept of it. Whether it was on Stranger Things and popping up on the 7-Eleven day, where you can bring your own any vessel to the establishment to fill, even in political culture, the interviews and conversations with franchisees we had, where we visited and connected, all pointed to the same thing. This was an American brand and an American icon. But what you would nonchalantly hear or say or connect to people would say, where do I buy a Slurpee? Or, oh yeah, that icy one. Or which one is that? In a way, it oddly was diluted without distinction, maybe because of branding, or maybe it became the Band-Aid of frozen drinks. So, you know, there was the nostalgia to it, and most of the creative or remembering of it was nostalgic. And franchisees would always talk about, can we bring back the cups? Can we bring back the rock? The nostalgia for the idea or the icon of the cup then evolved into a lot of user-generated creativity. And then, of course, a lot of user-generated content around 7-Eleven day. But the identity really was not necessarily clear. So it was truly undeniable. This was not an activation strategy job. It was an amplification job of all things that was Slurpee. But the true meaning of Slurpee was the idea and how it would connect with us, and how it was connecting with us were the things we went deeper into. Whether it be something like Grey's Anatomy, identifying with the independent spirit, whether it was the challenge and the badge of honor that was Slurpee. Case in point, this man on the right lives in the most drinking Slurpee culture in the world, Winnipeg, Canada. the most frozen place ever, I would say. That badge of honor, or the brain freeze, so to speak. Also the reward of filling anything you can and getting the most out of a product. Who can offer that? Only Slurpee seemed to be the one to offer and reward determination like this. And then, you know, the weird and odd, inspiring things we found with, for some reason, a million types of alien tattoo art, Slurpee brain art, and sometimes alien slurping Slurpee brains was odd, and just the weird kind of constructs behind things in the culture were undeniably wild and unique. And even the nostalgia and the love for a brand that could connect and spark the adventure, so to speak, to nowhere. When you first get your license, where do you go? In the middle of nowhere in America, you go out and you go to the convenience store with your friends, and Slurpee was a part of that. And it even personified the entrepreneurial spirit of our country. Case in point, this is actually the Slurpee queen. Her name is Rena. She is and sells the most Slurpees in America in another cold place in Taylor, Michigan, near Detroit. Actually, sometimes up to 1,000 a day in the summertime. So, you know, finally, without reason, you know, you couldn't help but connect to all the social media where celebrities hold this thing, and we want to be empowered like these people. And it gave us all really a jolt of what we were saying, stardom or possibly joy. And the love of that is really something engaging when you're holding it, and it makes you feel so amazing. Now on to what we call the beef, where we, AKA, refreshed the kind of the demand and internally decided to start to really present reigniting Slurpee soul through design, a brand evolution where we really wanted to command that power that it had in your hands, that it had in culture, with what we were calling a jolt of joy, secretly the brain freeze, as something positive, and that my is for everyone. And that jolt of joy was whatever inspired maybe the youth inside of you, and it inspired you to be free to be yourself. And oddly, as we get deeper into how we connect internally, on the left is our traditional kind of brief on a page, or the beef as we say it. But in this case, we also found, like, between the celebritydom of the product and the connection to social media, and it felt like a celebrity was right to also connect to as a muse. And Tyler just felt like the perfect muse. He's someone who always is transforming, connecting to his youth, and kind of becoming the most amazing flavor of the day, whatever he was doing. So case in point, we do have, you know, some traditional key considerations when we think about trying to evolve and create an American icon, one of which is, how can we give it iconic status through things like other American icons have, like literal icons. Also, the amplification of taste and value was something we really wanted our designers to explore. Yes, the photography, but maybe, you know, this thing melts in a second. How could we create a most tasty effect out of something that disappears? Or what is the vibrancy and where should it go? The visualization of that jolt of joy, it's something that can be maybe illustrated. How does it live when you're trying to evoke an emotion out of something that happens inside of you? The injection of variables for co-creation, this is something we just felt like is a necessity when you're talking about letting people agree with it to create content themselves, but have the freedom inside the graphics to flex and be filled with, or live the, you know, expression of the moment. And then finally, re-elevating, I think, the most amazing celebrity or icon that Slurpee has, and what travels better than the advertising on your product, like the cup. And we wanted to give a space and time and an area for something to come back, like those old cups used to do. The practical details currently, or at that current time, we had some really big demands internally for ourselves, and yes, a bit harsh, but also particular when you're trying to make that branding do all those things. One is, we really wanted to spring this logo type from the prison of that upward elevating black box. That was the only way it was allowed to live. And then there was this rainbow of colors, and we wanted to shed the rainbow for some colors with some real efficacy and strategy behind it. And then finally, this little alien Fred, who came out of an activation where they sent a Slurpee to space, seemingly was really trending and connecting to the brand team as something of a character that they needed or wanted. And they were asking us to evaluate Fred and should he stay in the mix as a brand identity piece, or what or where could they inject character like this into the new elements we were going to make. Phase one concepts. So, you know, we go back and 2 to 3 weeks later, we have these two concepts, which will show you all of phase one, how it went. And concept one, like I mentioned, was all about, you know, musing into an idea around Tyler. And in this case, the young inside us all, the young me, double E for Slurpee, and conjuring that time where he does amazing things, like stays in his youthful nature. How can we bring this, inject it right into the branding and the design story, and take a logo type like this, redraw it with the round and playful shapes of youth culture, but of course, particularly get it the impactful joy of a neon green, a green that was already on their core cups at the time, but amplifying it. And then finally, the specificity of drawing this S, this iconic way to say, this is how it flows out of your machine. It should top off with the dollop, and that flip was perfect to become an icon. Something that could be so iconic that we can register, something that can stand for big first moments, something that can amplify or be a sticker on top of anything youthful that we did, something that then could become something 3D or plush or really tasty with flavor without literal flavor, or even bringing a more of a bigger world around the idea of youthful DIY in the moment, cut and paste core look and feel. You know, with this kind of playful first round of look and feel, we were talking about how you use the S. Could things come through the window? Can we have two pieces of typography, one that's soft and coming from the brand, and one that's really bold and big and bright and says what we want to say? And then could the cup become a new vessel for social currency with big branding on it? And then finally, what does this iconic S do, but maybe it could come to life? And now maybe not so much Fred, but Styles is the new mascot who has all hands and can really be the mischievous kind of commentary we need when we want it. We always play in this realm. I know everyone does. It's a really fun way to say, here's all the elements come together. But whether it's slapping on this new Slurpee sticker or the cut and paste attitude, the DIY interaction with flavor and lifestyle, or how things like real things can interact or come out of the bold iconic S was this core look and feel. We even put some words behind it, like fill freely, get your own fill, all tastes are welcome, to obviously give that idea that co-creation is amongst us. And then never forget the celebrity view. Social media is filled with them. So the cup test, so to speak, forget about the clean shot, but what does it look like in a celebrity's hand? And when someone does something such failure like Kanye, how does he fill it? He doesn't fill it all the way up. You got to put the cap on first. The epic fails can be celebrated with Styles. The cups, of course, at this stage, in the sketch stage, were the big S and the big Slurpee running up the side. And then we were playing with this idea of pro tips to challenge everyone to fill freely and learn some things on how to tap and fill with the cap on first, some rules. And then the flexibility of the S, of course, allowing us to be a window, allowing us to collaborate, or even being a throwback sometimes where the freedom's here. It wasn't like we forgot about activation, but we built activation ideas back into the design ideas. So case in point, we had ways to show off in social or communicate how to use the styling or use the iconic S in Instagram, or how we speak in this design idea was quite playful and quite social. And then of course, bringing back and tapping into your youth meant maybe there had to be a TV, or could there be a site that connects to all the youth? Desus and Mero were an amazing conversation to say, hey, these are the kind of guys we'd love to have in such a platform. Again, seeding activation ideas within the design idea. And then of course, how can we co-create with people inside the application, make your own stickers, melt it, fill your own S, and then execute those and hit them all over wherever you are or whatever you work on. Of course, the fun merch and the iconic S or pattern work or styles could all come together in something both elevated and playful at the same time. And then when we get back to the things like the tools, they have a Slurpee truck, but look how much more impactful it can be. You can get really mixational, and then styles can pop out when we want them to. And then finally, activating Slurpee Day, which is 7-Eleven. Now with big ideas and ideas coming together where you can activate boldly, maybe name a monster truck, brain freeze, slap stickers, use the S in the checkerboard way, and crush all the ices. We always show a toolkit. And then moving into concept 2, I think the other amazing thing we love about our muse is that he can come out as the most amazing decked out fashionista in HD. And the other side of the spectrum was us to tap into, really, we thought, the high def sensorial nature of Slurpee. And again, starting with this imprisonment, so to speak, we let it go and we drew it in a way that was so much more sharp and soft at the same time, almost looking at the cup for the S as a swirl from overhead, but it could move and it could vibe and it could feel the effects and start to amplify the vibe and rhythm and even the amplification of saying or feeling the Slurpee in high def. And that could resonate, it could be infectious, and it should be in full effects. And you should see the texture in the high def, you should taste the flavor without actually tasting it. And Slurpee can amplify things and amplify you to the max. This U was a big idea, and we were thinking about U as an iconic thing, and how could we use maybe a different type of icon like the cup itself and speak amplification. So Slurpee amplifies you without actually saying it. And again, with the while posting, is it just a really fun way to say the type spreads to the edges. It's amplified every which way, shape, or form. It can get soft, it can get sharp, it can go dynamically, but flavoring outside the lines is what we were all about here. And of course, the celebrity test, again, is almost like a megaphone in Iggy's hand. And then, you know, simplification of these things across the board. Flavor outside the lines was something we really loved for this route. And then, of course, the executions in collaboration with the freedom with Slurpee to integrate with any kind of artwork or photography. Activating, of course, this felt like it was a lot more about the conversation and elevated effects of things. So we really wanted to lean into those vibes and stories. And again, a different type of platform, .fx, that could really speak to maybe the music, the sounds, the amplification of all things style and creativity for the youth market. Not without merch, of course, and even a playful riff off Supreme, really fun and just playful. And then, you know, the regular truck from D1 becomes something amplified in high def in D2, just amplification to the max, maybe a bigger truck. And then finally, how do you celebrate that free Slurpee Day? Maybe something a lot more higher and unexpected. So 2 toolkits in the appendix, 2 very different ways in. D1 was really amplified in the youth culture of it all and really tapping into your youth. DIY, core look and feel, and a lot more of the character that we all have inside of us or remember from Slurpee. And on the other side of the spectrum, something amplified in high def. And this is where we kind of give an applause to brand team from 7-Eleven, where we literally did take phase 1 and evolve to final with just a few comments and a few great instincts from them to say, hey, we love the amplification of flavor from D2. Can you fold that into D1? And can we move on our way to execution? And that's exactly what we did. So I'm sure you've seen some of this work. Final evolution became a refined styles mascot, some high def CGI of the Slurpee material itself, and a drawing of that material that would emulate the logotype of the S icon. We amplified that S icon to live amongst the amplified flavor. We used it to celebrate everything from the vibes to the pattern work to style. We elevated the cup a bit to make sure that everyone can literally and practically see Slurpee from every turn. And then we went even deeper to make sure that our team that helped us render in CGI was drawing literally that flip on the icon of the S. And one of the major things we were always worried about is how often we integrated with the Slurpee and it melted not when we got home, but literally on site. So we're actually in the middle of creating that custom dollop, which follows the same 3D render of the dollop itself. So it can keep the shape that you see in the commercials when it's not as unreal as that. The S, of course, can live as anything now. We've set a deep toolkit where it could have the volume to be filled with flavor, have the volume to live in materials that are not untraditional. And then, of course, the play with styles is there and waiting for him to be released, not yet. But here is the detail around the blueprint of him. He's all hands. He's filled with Slurpee. He glows in the dark, and we're waiting for him to really come out. Deeper into the design practicalities of things, we did have a deep hand in the tone of voice. And there were 3 levels of that. There were things that came straight from the brand itself, which we kept in all Grilly style typography, Maru. Then we used Flexa as a key headline font, but that felt like not enough when we wanted to really feel the flow. So we worked with the Grilly team to create that swerve typography, which is just a riff off Flexa that really got us to the point of expressing some things like freely, or the actions that we really wanted to get a lot of the flow that was happening in the drawing of the S. That went deeper into a tone of voice that lived back on the cup, not unlike what we had in phase 1, but a little bit deeper to literally 8 different executions of cup that run off the same line. And then, of course, the classic tools, the fun merch that was going into Toolkit for inspiration for launch, and even a launch idea all folded into a large guidelines toolkit about how to launch for summer. Again, there are deeper ideas around even launching in cities and elevating the feel freely kind of vibe by some little pop-ups and things like that. But all of it does culminate into a really hard-worked toolkit where all the details live, whether it's what we have now for strategic colors, whether it's the jolt of neon green for joy, or the vibe around these simple borders that all are anchored in the S itself and a system that anyone can take and plug and play, to all the not so fun details of how to corral such a really large volume of flavor that they constantly evolve on site with those flavor stickers, which you can see they have 3 different categories of partnerships, collaborations, and then also their own flavors. So we created a system out of that that works quite well. And then, of course, deeper into it is what happened with that, which is what is inspired and what you probably have seen mostly in the news. And not that we ever thought that a costume would come out of it, but that is the same shape and dollop that we gave them the CGI'd format for that in 3D. And our creative partners have really done an amazing job. I mean, we've gotten so excited to see all these things come to life, whether it is something like the Bejeweled King Ice collaboration, the summer gear, things for your pets, even the elevated nature of the coach's jacket. Not all what we originally intended, but all so amazing to see how we built something that has the flexibility, has the opportunity of all those details we said to be so iconic that you can do what you want with it. And case in point, our partners then did what they could do. And you could see all of the things that we really actually were excited from the beginning in phase 1 to say you should be able to play and make your own Slurpee there on the far right, how it came to life in the vibrancy of that hip hop song they made for the 50 years of hip hop. And then, of course, the amazing silver set styling here of the Wild Cherry ladies. And again, at the end, there's our typography moving, which is really fun to see. And that's all that we could ever hope for. Needless to say, it's not just us. This is a massive team that helped out. And of course, last but not least, the 7-Eleven brand team should get an award just for their courage, truly, to let us take phase 1 and really just refine it for execution. So that team, Marissa Jarrett, Marissa Eddings, and Cherie Patterson, need an applause. And that's it.
Guys, that was really, really fantastic. So before we kind of kick off everything with the Q&A, just so everyone knows, you can drop some questions into the Q&A box that is there on your little presenter thing. And Adam and Priscilla are going to answer as many questions as we can possibly get to. So as those questions are coming in, I feel like first I kind of want to ask the most important question. What is your favorite Slurpee flavor?
Well, we had many trips to the different Slurpees in New York, but I must say mine is cherry with Coke. When you mix it, it's really good. Yeah.
Yes. Hard agree.
I'm going with the biggest selling flavor in the franchisee that the Queens shop, which is Sour Patch Kid.
This is crazy to me that this is the most, because I'm sorry, and I'm not going to knock your flavor here. That's not what I'm trying to do. But like, I'm sorry, the cherry and the Coke is the supreme. That's the best one. You mix those two. My kids,
It is by far.
It's classic.
That is definite. I think that is a statistical truth that while I think Wild Cherry sells the most, but in the Queens store, it was Sour Patch Kids. Yes.
And before we even, my kids are disgusting. They just kind of like basically just like pull every lever down, like, and I'm just like, why would you do? I can't even track what flavors we're even dealing with right now. So
but that's the idea. That's the idea. You'd be free to be yourself and like have any flavors or
getting mixational. That's what we say.
Mixational. Yeah.
You know what? You're right. I need to inspire my children's creativity. You made me feel like a horrible father. Anyway, okay. Let's go. We got some real questions here, not about Slurpee flavors. First one coming from Agnieszka. Has the rebranding included a choice of possibly a new cup material or something more sustainable or something that can be recycled?
Yeah, definitely a great question and something we thought about a lot. And actually we've seen in other countries like Australia has a great representation of that. But the brand team has just recently came out with that kind of tie-dye effect reusable cup. You can see it on this. Actually, I'm not trying to sell for them, but it's on there. Material though is tricky because it has to kind of keep it as cold as it can, albeit never frozen.
We try to suggest different materials, but that's the problem because it's such a like
visceral
material. It kind of like melts right away, so it needs to keep it cool, and that's like that's a major.
But they do have a reusable one. It's monstrous too. You could fill it up. Or you can make up your own vessel for 7-Eleven Day.
I like this idea. That's a very good idea. Let's see. What were some of the discussion points around finalizing which concept to go ahead with? If you give them some insight into that process and what they should sort of consider.
Discussion, I would say, amongst the brand team. I mean, we like to make close friends with our partners. So they do ask us those kind of things. Hey, what do you guys think? Where we go? And we were pretty adamant and pushed them quite harshly that at first in a friendly way that they should go with the one they went with. But they did do some smart testing. They do have a brain freeze collective, they call it, where they did in a very speedy, light way focus group the evolution, because they were like, wow, this is more like a revolution, right? But I think we did have some great references to the fact that every time they've changed, and it has been a lot, they've more revolved than evolved. So I think it was just like, hey, let's take a risk. This is fun, and look at all the things you can possibly do with it. I think that's case in our designers did a great job in phase one, showing the opportunities. And they did sit and we did wait for a little while for them to decide though. Although they did go with phase one, there was like a little bit of like time where they had to reflect and get, I think, some internal stakeholder approvals.
Got it. So Sarah would like to know, did the logo start with a font or was it all custom?
It did start with the font. It changed quite a bit. Obviously, we designed the I mean, I can't say it's a font anymore. It started with this idea of having like thicks and tins in the letters, but we changed quite a bit. We basically redraw all the characters for it.
Right, and of course the flip. I think like we knew that for that root, it wanted to be round, soft, the feeling of one state, I guess, of matter of the Slurpee.
Yeah, the inspiration was when you're at the store and you're on the machine, the way that Slurpee comes out is like this like fluid mass of like icy water, and I think that's what we're trying to mimic in the characters of the logo.
I mean, I do have to kind of ask about that. Maybe this is for me personally. Like, how did you sort of land on that? Were you just like in front of a Slurpee machine and you were just like, oh my God, that's a monogram. Look at that.
No. I do remember this. We started just looking at what Slurpee logo is now. And from that, we started evolving the shapes a little bit, because it was like very squarey and very like regimented. And then in doing so, we were like, oh, but wait a minute. If we like go a little bit further and make this more round and the shapes more interesting, we can then see the actual, you know, fluidity of the Slurpee in it. So it was like an evolving concept. We didn't sit and like, oh, this Slurpee machine comes in, like let's draw the letters like this. It was more like evolving.
Yeah, and I think to Pri's point, I mean, if you put all the iterations of logo types together, including ours, it doesn't. I wouldn't say it looked like it came from nowhere. There was a bold, big, soft, playful effect to a lot of ones in the past. One of our most favorite, I guess, executions was probably the one that you see in Stranger Things that Alexi character was holding, where it was like the red, white, and blue. And I think like that never went far enough. And to Pri's point about really feeling the efficacy of the material, but it just feels like that era, I guess that was the 80s, was the most, I guess, nostalgic, youthful connection that I think most people have when they think about the brand. And that felt like the most youthful for that route, I would say.
Yeah. Let's see. Lee asks, how did you convince the client that they needed a brand refresh and not just an activation? Did you do any prospective work to tease this out?
Yeah, I think what we did in that really hyper fast taste exploratory we showed you was about 2 months of deeper work of connecting with franchisees, listening to stakeholders, visiting, and then realizing and researching the effects it had had on culture. And we presented that as a phase, I guess you would say phase one of strategy first, to respond to the brief. We had definitely already expressed to them, because we are on a constant dialogue with the partners, and said, you know, this looks like something a lot more, but and then we slowly started seeding and then presented a large document that showed enough connection to where 7-Eleven was always talking about in their bigger like master brand essence going forward with, and how it worked properly to really think about having assets that could make them the icon that they already were, really.
Yeah. Did the brand sort of give you, this comes from Lauren, did the brand sort of give you any hard parameters or tell you that anything was off limits?
No, another kudos to the brand team.
No.
They really wanted to see us flex. I don't think we went too far on anything. I think that we just lived the brand, I guess, and hopefully that comes through. I think we got so deep into it, we were kind of becoming its own best and worst, like, per people to like watch out for those things and page. Right. There wasn't anything that were immediate guardrails. I think we know we needed to fulfill some major like needs, and those things had to be, you know, hit first and foremost. What do you do on the cups? How do we use this thing? Is it going to be, I think the biggest challenge was to give them an icon. And I think that that's what they hoped for when they went on that journey with us. So I think there were mandates, but never any tight guardrails. Yeah.
Yeah. This one comes from Natasha. What is next for Slurpee? A Slurpee truck would be very cool at events, perhaps summer 2024.
I mean, our executions were just skinning. There is a Slurpee truck.
There is, yeah.
There's only one, and we want to. Yes, we want an armada of them, and I hope that's in the works. We by no means think we're done with working on the brand. It was really inspiring to see what their other creative partners did for the launch, and I think that it's given us some new ideas for hopefully dipping back into it next summer. Yeah, but the trucks are genius.
I approve of this idea, especially now that like the Wienermobile just like rebranded as like the Frankfurter car or wherever the heck it is. I think this is ripe for Slurpee to just have an armada of Slurpee vehicles is what needs to happen. More of a stupid comment than anything else. Anyway, okay. So we have so many questions. I'm going to try to get to a lot of these. You guys only have limited time. So let's see. So what were some of the biggest customer insights and surprises you got when exploring the nostalgia of Slurpee?
Biggest insights. A lot of people have a lot of, they love to talk about how you fill the cup.
There is a science.
There's a science. I think that was really, they love to talk about, I think everyone loves to talk about their own mix. That's one thing. That's just mandatory that we knew we had to allow things to be filled with multiple flavors. But I think like the weirdest thing, or we never really thought about, is the mythology around and the method around filling was so specific. There is like, I don't know, it's like
first tap on. You need to tap on already. So you grab the thing. Yeah, the cup.
Okay.
Cap on first.
Yeah, put the cap on.
Yes, cap on. Yep.
Then obviously you fill a little bit and then you tap, tap, tap.
The tap was major.
Yeah. So like the air, the air that is taking space, that should be a Slurpee, goes out, the tap, 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 and then you fill it a bit more. Yeah. And that's true. I've seen like kids doing it. I remember I stayed at a 7-Eleven for quite some time one day, just, you know, observing
peeking behind the machine.
What people do, and kids know what they're doing. They tap, 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 they mix flavors, they know everything.
Tap as you fill. Yes, that was a major pro tip that we were thinking about putting on the cups at first. Yeah.
And I think that's where pro tips came about, because people that are loyalists to Slurpee, they feel like they're professional, like Slurpee.
For sure.
Yeah. So the pro tips came from them.
There you go. How long did the full rebrand take?
Yeah, that's a funny question. I think we went back to look, and I would say the actual execution, I would say, would be 3 months. But there was some time in between for pause and regrouping by brand team and some focus testing.
Yeah, there was
testing. But I would say generally 3 months. And we kicked it off in the summer of 2022. And,
no, I think it was April.
Oh, April. Yeah, maybe so. Oh, we kicked off the design phase in the summer and the strategy phase in the spring. And then there was a pause. And then I think around October of 2022, we went to refinement and execution. So pretty tight. Really.
That is pretty tight. Something I'm curious about this too. Betsy asks, how did the idea of a mascot come about?
Yeah, it wasn't from scratch. Like I mentioned, there was that character Fred, right? And they had done that execution. They had the activation of sending the Slurpee to space, and part of the activation, someone, other brand partner, created that Fred character, that alien cup. They were anxious to have something. They were having some fun with it internally and seeding him a little bit. But they were asking us, hey, if we're auditing everything, where's Fred fit in? Does he fit in? And I would say Fred can always live as part of that like weird and wild alien universe they have. But we were excited to build a character that came from the icon and could be iconic for them in a bigger sense. I don't think we kill Fred, but Styles to us embodies more of the character we created through the evolution of the design story.
I hope you didn't kill Fred.
No. I don't know if you can kill him. I'm not even sure you can kill
somewhere
Fred.
in the space.
You launched him into space.
Fred went back home for a while, yes. Yeah.
This is a good inside baseball kind of question. Ben asked, obviously 2 concepts were presented to the client here. Were there any additional concepts that were developed and omitted eternally? Also, how does your team typically decide how many directions to take with a client?
No, there were no other routes.
There were no other routes, yeah. But let's say to arrive to those 2 designs, there was a lot of testing. Yeah. So we had the concepts already in mind, but like the 2 executions, like visually, obviously it takes a lot of work. So there is a lot of, trying and testing internally.
And my internal goal, Pri has a harder challenge because she runs the day-to-day, but I always want to keep it to 2 and hopefully one day just 1 option, but I think we all do. So we're at a 2 option with some of these bigger projects now, because if we put enough into the stories, it should be just one or the other, I feel. And I feel like we did in that phase.
Okay. Austin asks, how do you decide about how do you go about deciding which activations and deliverables you select to mock up and present to a client, like the blimp, the rug, the basketball, everything that you guys sort of had out there?
I think that we work a lot on writing and story first. So there, obviously I did not present the full concept of writing. We write a little bit more and we present a little bit more about the values that each concept has and what that means for everything. So the way it lives, breathes, and looks should all be connected. So we do try to then write, well, how would it activate if it had to do X, Y, and Z? And that's what we kept as a parallel path in each route is, how would it launch 7-Eleven Slurpee Day? How would it execute on some level social, basically IG, or how would it create maybe something like a new platform to engage with youth culture, like a presence online? So one route had the TV idea as a channel. The other one was more of a platform for creativity, the FX. So we parallel path. You can see that everyone had to do the same thing: test it in a celebrity's hand, show how you would do collab cups, how you would relaunch or celebrate 7-Eleven Slurpee Day, all those things. Activations that are, or how would you decorate the truck, or what would the truck look like? There are 2 very different trucks in each one. One's high def and one's regular, right? I think all of those things should live and breathe the design story.
Absolutely. Yeah, you see even the applications that we have from one concept, they're not necessarily mirrored to the other. I think, yeah, the first one was a bit more tuning into like pop culture, street style, and obviously therefore the basketball and the stickers. And for the second one then was about amplification and high definition. So like these big massive trucks, or the how do you call the
blimp?
The blimp, like things that are like, exaggerated and to the max. Then that translated into the kind of applications we did.
Right.
Got it. So I think we have time for one more question. Also, before I even give you that question, just because people are asking about this, yes, Melody, this presentation will be shared. It will be available on demand. You can find it on Dieline, I think later today or tomorrow. And also we have a YouTube channel where, we'll be able to watch this indefinitely. So last question. I just had it a second ago and then I just lost it. Where did it go? Yes, question from George. Has it been a challenge to execute consistently in store, given that 7-Eleven uses a franchisee model?
Well, I would say it's vibrant and they're really going for it. Mm-hmm. I think like it's always a challenge. We built the best toolkit I think anyone could build for executing those kind of assets. What I do love is when I go in one, it's way more vibrant and it's super flavorful. We never really intended some things to be clashing together, but the clash disrupts.
Yeah, so, it just happens.
I mean, the answer is yes, but who cares? It's awesome. And maybe next year we can go meet some more and be at they have a massive franchisee meeting in Vegas every year. Maybe we can be there and be like, hey, this is all great, but maybe you can get more impactful with X, Y, and Z. I think it's just been exciting how much 7-Eleven has literally gone for it and executed regardless. And we do see it. When you get out of the airport in Queens, it's in the 7-Eleven, you step off the plane, it's there. They're using it. And that's really fun.
I think that's like obviously more important than control all the assets and have like, you know, what we had in mind at first place. I think more important than that is inspiring people and, you know, the other partners to do things and let the brand live. And I think seeing all the things and all the merch and all the activations and all the, even like in the digital space,
yeah, we
see that we achieved that we were able to inspire people and keep like using their creativity and yeah, let the brand live.
Yeah, I hope that you guys can just keep making crazy Slurpee merch. It will make me personally very happy. So
yeah, they're doing a great job. They're really going for it. I love it. Yeah,
that's great. Well, guys, Adam and Pri, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. This was great. And yeah, we'll see you around. And like I said, everyone, you can check this out later on our YouTube channel.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys later. Yeah. Be good.